Here are these words from the Old Testament book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 9, verse 11. I returned, and I saw under the sun that the race was not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor favor to the men of skill, but time and chance happens to them all. I want to spend just a very few minutes with a very brief comments for you guys today. A message of two worldviews. And to do that, I'm going to use your class motto. If you ain't first, you're last, right? I guess that comes from Talladega Nights. Am I right? Your class song, Glorious by Macklemore. Is that correct? All right. And this one short verse from the book of Ecclesiastes. So what are these two worldviews? Well, one is a temporary worldview. One says that we only exist for whatever number of years we've been blessed with. 15, 18, 20, 60, 70, 90, whatever it is, but that's all there is. It's referred to as a nihilistic view. Nihilism is simply the idea of it's a rejection of all religious and moral principles in the belief that life is meaningless. And if all that the temporary life is the number of years you have to live and there's nothing after that, then that is one worldview. It's a temporary worldview. I'm only here for a moment. Solomon, the author of the book of Ecclesiastes, was basically speaking from this point of view. He said that, he repeats this phrase throughout the book, under the sun. And what he's saying is that in the physical realm, it's pretty much meaningless. If this is all there is, he's offering a perspective that life is pretty much pointless when it's lived only and solely under the sun. It's a life that exists without eternal perspective. It's a life that exists without accountability. A life where death is just the end and that's all there is. But there's a second worldview, a second way to look at things, and that is the eternal worldview. A view where there is more to life than what I can see, what I can feel, what I can taste, what I can smell, and what I can touch. A life where there is something beyond physical reality. A world where the phrase under the sun ceases to exist because there's more than what's in the physical world. So if you ain't first, you're last. And if that's true, then I guess there's 30 graduates, right? 29 of you are screwed. Because only one can be first. And all the rest of you are last. And in a temporary worldview, that's the way it plays out. But it gets worse than that, because the one thing that I've learned playing high school and college football is that there is always somebody who's bigger, faster, and stronger than you are. And so that makes a life pretty much without hope. If you ain't first, you're last. Let's look again at Ecclesiastes. What does he say here? He says, again, I saw under the sun that the race doesn't go to the swift, and the battle doesn't go to the strong. The bread doesn't go to the wise, the riches don't go to the discerning, favor doesn't go to the skillful, but time and chance happen to them all. What he's saying is the greatest skill set doesn't always get rewarded. You can be blessed with all the tools there are. You could be that guy. You can make all the right decisions. You could be that girl who has everything right, and you could still wind up last. Now that's pretty much a life without justice. It would be unfair that you do everything you're supposed to do, and you still wind up last. Because if you ain't first, you're last, and you're not always going to win. Life without justice. So now you got a life without hope and a life without justice. But I want to look at one more point here. If you ain't first, you're last, and according to the lyrics from Glorious by Macklemore, it says that since we hopped out that DeLorean, on guard, things are just things. They don't make you who you are. Can't pack up a U-Haul and take it with you when you're gone. Now, if he's right, life has just become pretty much pointless. Not only is it a life without hope and a life without justice, but it's a life without meaning. He who dies with the most toys dies. The same fate awaits everyone. Death becomes the great equalizer in a temporary worldview. And it doesn't matter what you've gained. It doesn't matter the things that you've accomplished. It doesn't matter what you've become. Because in the end, you go to the grave alone, unwept, unremembered. And that's life without meaning or without purpose. In short, the temporary, the selfish, the nihilistic view of life is pretty depressing. It's pretty pointless. It's a life without hope, without justice, and without meaning. But under an eternal worldview, everything changes and things become different. The phrase under the sun ceases to exist because there's much more to this life than just the physical realm. Life becomes filled with hope, justice, and meaning. If you ain't first, you're last. But how do I become first is the question that must be asked. If you want to be first in life, I'm going to offer you a few things here to go with. First of all, clear the clutter. One of the number one grossing movies of this year is Mario Brothers. You guys seen it? You care? Does anybody play Mario Kart anymore? Okay, awesome. I hate that game. Mostly because I suck at it. But the reality is that Mario Kart is a race game where it's set up to mess you up because it's all filled with clutter. There's all kinds of different things. The course lays out dumb. They've got all these goofy things there. People are throwing stuff at you, banana peels and rockets and bombs and grease pits and all this stuff. But you want to be first, you need to clear the clutter in your life. Material things that pile up around you, things that you don't need or you can't use, don't worry about accumulating that stuff. Keep the clutter out of your life. Emotional baggage that hinders your relationships and it undermines your self-esteem. Don't be gathering these things up. Resentment and unforgiveness. You know what resentment is? That's the poison pill that you take hoping it kills the person you're offended by. And a life filled with unforgiveness brings so much clutter into your life that you're never going to be first. You're going to constantly be tripping over these regrets and these resentments and these offenses. You need to learn to clear the clutter out of your life, to get away from the anger that is instilled by them and the hurts that you've gathered. If you want to be first in life, not only clear the clutter, but live for something bigger than yourself. Leave a legacy. Be something that's worth remembering. I want to use Macklemore's lyrics again. He said, I heard you die twice. Once when they bury you in the grave, and the second time is the last time that someone mentions your name. If you want to be first, and if your life is spent living completely selfishly, what little bit of legacy you leave is one that is going to be very short-lived and is not going to be worth mentioning. Clear the clutter. Live for something bigger than yourself. Look out for, to live for something bigger than yourself means to look out for the least and the last. Again, he says, so when I leave here on this earth, did I take more than I gave? Did I look out for people, or did I do it all for fame? You will never be worth remembering. You will never be worth a mention by other people if your goals in life are simply self-serving. Now, I graduated a great many years ago. And when I did, I was presented with a book from my grandma. And in it, she wrote a lot of different things in the leaflet. But the one thing that she wrote that stuck with me my entire life was this. And she put right in there, Jody, a man wrapped up in himself becomes a small package. I don't want to be a small man. You shouldn't want to be a small person. You should want to live for something bigger than yourself. If you want to be first, put others ahead of you. Jesus said it this way, I came to be served, not to be served. I came to serve, not to be served. If you desire greatness, become a servant. You want to be first, be last. That's how you get elevated. If you want to be first, be born again. Now, I'm going to tell you, I pulled this right from Macklemore's lyrics again, because he says, I feel glorious, glorious. I got a chance to start again. I was born for this, born for this. It's who I am. How could I forget? I made it through the darkest part of the night, and now I see the sunrise. Now I feel glorious, glorious. I feel glorious. He said, I got a chance to start again. That's a do-over in life. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to trip up. You're going to have things that get in the way. They're going to take your mind off of the prize. You're going to get distracted. But there's an opportunity to start over fresh every day. And I don't know what decisions you've made in life to this point. I don't know what your future looks like. I can't stand here and try to prophesy over you. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to tell you is that there's a God in heaven that loves you. And it doesn't matter what mistakes you make in life. And it doesn't matter what missteps you have created or are going to commit. You are always welcome back to what you were born for. It's who I am. That's living with a purpose. Living with the purpose that you were created for. How could I forget, he says. Because we do. We lose sight. Life gets in the way. It gets busy. It gets hectic. We get distracted. But I made it through the darkest part of the night, and now I see the sunrise. Enduring and persevering through the setbacks in life is the way you get to be first. And seeing the light at the end of the tunnel is the thing that drives you on. Really, that's what the gospel message is all about. Wrapped up in the lyrics of the chorus of this song, your class song. If you want to be first, be born again. You are not an accident. You are not here by mistake. You have not been placed in this time and location. And I'm not just talking about this physical building. I'm talking about your place in life. The God of the universe who created you loves you. And it doesn't matter how many mistakes you make in this life. He is always waiting there to embrace you again. Hear this. God loves you, and so do I. May God bless the AUSABLE High School class of 2023. Please stand.